My name is Rose. I'm 28 years old and I live in a small town about a 45-minute drive from Portland, Oregon. Every morning I make a cup of tea, check the weather forecast, and drive less than 15 minutes to my office. I'm the co-founder of a startup that develops artificial intelligence software for healthcare applications. It's not an easy job to explain, and honestly, my family never really understood it. They assume I spend my days writing code or fixing computers. I've never bothered to correct them, mostly because I never felt the need to. Whenever someone brings up my family, my parents, or my sister Lily, I just smile and say, "We haven't spoken in a while." And that's usually the end of the conversation. It's not that I'm hiding anything. I simply don't want to revisit what happened. It's been over 3 years since I cut off contact with them. No phone calls, no texts, no holidays or birthdays, just silence. But it all started with my mother's birthday 3 years ago. That was the night everything changed. If you're still listening, we want to sincerely thank you for spending your time with us. Truly means a lot. We'd love to know, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments and let's see how far this message has reached. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I highly recommend doing it now so you won't miss any of our upcoming stories. These aren't just ordinary stories, they're filled with meaningful life lessons that can inspire, teach, and stay with you long after the video ends. Hit that subscribe button and join our growing community. 3 years ago, I had planned to visit home for my mother's birthday. I bought a plane ticket, requested time off work, and intended to stay for a few days to help set up the celebration, just like every other year. It wasn't anything extravagant. I simply wanted to be with my family. I called my mom, expecting the usual warmth in her voice. But my father answered instead. His tone was hesitant, unfamiliar. "Rose," he began slowly, "this year, maybe you shouldn't come home." I laughed, thinking he was worried I might be too busy. "It's okay, Dad. I've already arranged everything. I can manage." But he cut me off. This time, his voice was colder, firmer. "Lily's bringing her boyfriend. He's a project manager, very professional, very impressive. Your line of work doesn't quite fit the image we want to show. If you come, it'll make things uncomfortable for the family." I froze. Felt like a bucket of ice water had been dumped over me. My heart pounded in my chest. I clutched my mug of hot tea tightly, suddenly unsure if it was the cup or my fingers trembling. "What did you just say?" I asked, my voice shaking. He didn't take it back. He didn't soften. Instead, he doubled down with a voice that cut like glass. "If you insist on coming, then don't call me your father anymore." And then he hung up. Just like that. No explanation. No room for discussion. The line went dead, but the echo of his words stayed with me. Still stays with me. That moment fractured something inside me, something I didn't know could break. I sat in silence, staring at the steam rising from my tea, no longer tasting the warmth. I never boarded that flight. I never went back. And from that day forward, I never called again. I stood there in my quiet apartment, the soft hum of the TV murmuring from the corner. My father's words echoed in my head. "If you come, it'll make things uncomfortable for the family." I wondered if I had misheard him, if maybe my mind had twisted his meaning in some way. But no. Every word had been crystal clear, each one sharp and deliberate like the clean edge of a blade. I looked down at my phone, my hands still trembling. And then the memories came rushing in. For the past 3 years, I had quietly paid for my parents' rent, their electricity, water, and internet bills, over $12,000 in total. I had never told anyone. I never asked for thanks. It wasn't about recognition. It was just something I did because that's what family meant to me. And now I was the embarrassment, the burden, the one they hoped would stay away. I unlocked my phone and opened the banking app. Scrolling through the transaction history, the numbers appeared like tiny wounds. Each month, without fail, $450 left my account. A silent ritual to keep their house lit, their water running, their online lives uninterrupted. The last total read $12,463.28. I didn't stare at it because I was shocked. I knew the number would be high. What made me pause was the cold, hollow space that suddenly opened up inside my chest. Almost $13,000. And somehow I was the one who didn't belong. I sat down slowly on the edge of the couch, the weight of it all finally pressing down. My father's voice still rang in my ears, but now it mingled with another. My own, asking myself over and over why? Why wasn't I enough? And then, without meaning to, my thoughts turned to Lily. What had she done for our parents? Had she ever paid a single bill? Did she even know what their mortgage cost each month? Or was her contribution just showing up, perfectly dressed, always smiling arm in arm with some man who fit their idea of success? Had she ever stayed up late troubleshooting the Wi-Fi when Dad couldn't figure it out, or wired money when the heating bill spiked in winter? I wasn't jealous of her. I never had been. But for the first time in my life, I saw things clearly. Fairness had never existed in our family. Love came with conditions. Acceptance was earned through appearances, not effort. Through admiration, not loyalty. I wasn't looking for praise. I never had. But still, deep down, I had thought maybe they were proud of me in their own quiet way. That maybe, even if they didn't understand my job or my life, they appreciated the stability I brought. The silent support. I was wrong. The silence I thought meant respect, it was just absence. Indifference, maybe even shame. I leaned back and let the weight of it all settle. Television continued its quiet hum in the background, but I no longer heard it. I stared at the ceiling, my fingers still resting on the screen that displayed the final sum, $12,463.28. Numbers that no longer meant anything. And in that stillness, I realized something I had never wanted to admit. Maybe it was never about what I gave or how hard I tried. Maybe I was never going to be enough for them because they had never really wanted me to be. I had grown up knowing how to stand on the sidelines. In family photos, I was usually half hidden behind someone's shoulder or tucked into the corner of the frame, eyes unfocused, distant. Lily, my sister, 3 years older, was always the center of everything. Her birthdays, her graduations, even her breakups became grand events where the whole family gathered to comfort her, to cheer her on. And me? If I was mentioned at all, it was in passing. Rose? Oh, she's doing something with computers, I think. For years, I told myself that if I just worked hard enough, if I carried things quietly and didn't cause trouble, someday they'd see me. Not just notice, but really see me for who I was, for what I gave. But they didn't. And the truth is, when you're used to being invisible, no one notices when you're gone. Everything began 3 years ago when my mom called me one evening. Her voice trembled with concern. She explained that the cost of living had gone up, that their retirement income wasn't stretching far enough anymore. Then she asked if I could help just a little. Of course I said yes. I thought it would be temporary. But month after month, the payments continued. Quiet, steady, unquestioned. One day I asked her, "Has Lily helped at all?" There was always a vague answer. "Your sister has her own responsibilities," or "Lily's been helping with your dad's medication." I knew those were lies. Maybe small, soft ones, but lies all the same. Till I said nothing. I kept transferring $450 a month without complaint. I told myself it was the right thing to do. But after my father's phone call, after he told me not to come home, that I'd make the family uncomfortable, I saw things differently. To them, I wasn't a daughter. I wasn't someone they were proud of. I wasn't even someone they thought about unless they needed something. I was just a wallet. And once I stopped being useful, once my presence no longer served a purpose, they had no problem casting me aside. There's a particular kind of heartbreak that comes not from a single betrayal, but from realizing the story you've told yourself your whole life was never true. That you were never really part of the picture, even when you were in the room. I sat on the sofa, phone in hand, feeling like everything had stopped moving. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even hurt. There was only one thought in my mind: enough. I opened my banking app and canceled every scheduled payment. Rent, electricity, water, internet. All of it gone. Not out of spite, but to preserve the last sliver of self-respect I had left. A week later, my mother texted me. Her tone was sweet, as if nothing had ever happened. "The internet bill is due soon. Can you take care of it, dear?" No apology. No, how are you? Just the assumption that I would continue being useful. I didn't reply. 2 weeks after that, my father called. His voice was sharp, irritated. "The power's out. What the hell is going on?" I let the phone ring until it stopped, then turned it off completely. When my mother's birthday came around, I sat in my apartment with a cold cup of tea on the table beside me. My phone buzzed constantly: Mom, Dad, then Lily. I didn't answer. Messages flooded in, one after another. "The electricity is out. The whole house is dark. No water. How are we supposed to cook? The internet's down. Guests are arriving soon. Fix it now." I read them all, but I didn't respond. They weren't calling because they missed me. They were calling because there was no one else left to carry the burden I'd been silently holding for years. Exactly at 6 p.m., a video call came in. It was Aunt Helen, the only relative I still trusted. I answered. Through the screen, I saw the familiar kitchen in my parents' house. The sound of clinking forks and forced laughter filled the background. My mother's birthday dinner was underway. Aunt Helen looked at me, her expression tense, her voice gentle but unsure. "You're really not going to pay anymore, are you?" I gave her a small, tired smile. "You know what Dad told me? He said if I came home not to call him my father anymore." Before Aunt Helen could respond, my mother's voice shrieked from somewhere off-screen. "She's humiliating me on my birthday." Then my father's voice, hard and sharp. "It's just a few bills. Why be so petty?" Lily stepped into the frame, her face tight with fury. "Mom's been crying all day. Do you even care? You're disgusting." I said nothing. I just watched. Then something unexpected happened. A face I didn't recognize appeared in the frame, young, well-groomed, dressed in a neatly pressed suit. He hesitated when he saw me. And then, almost unsure, he said, "Boss." I froze. It was Ethan, one of the new developers on my software team. We had never met in person, only communicated through email and project dashboards. And yet, there he was, standing in my parents' kitchen next to Lily. So he was the boyfriend, the one the family had been so eager to impress. The room fell silent. A wave of whispered voices rippled in the background. "Wait, Rose is his boss?" Someone muttered. Finn straightened, his face pale but composed. "I work at Neural Care," he said clearly. "Rose is one of the co-founders." A hush fell over the kitchen. No one moved. No one breathed. I didn't say much, just nodded slightly and replied, calm and steady, "Hope your introduction goes well." Then I ended the call. That night, I slept peacefully. No tossing, no turning. For the first time in years, I felt a strange kind of lightness, not from triumph or spite, but from clarity. They finally knew who I was. No more assumptions, and no more erasing. Just truth laid bare. The next morning, I opened my inbox to find an email from Ethan. His words were apologetic, his tone sincere. "I didn't realize you were Lily's sister," he wrote. I had no idea she treated you like that. I'm ending things with her. Thank you for not putting me on the spot in front of everyone." I paused before replying, then kept my message short. "Ethan, that's your personal decision. I don't mix family matters with work. Just think it through carefully before making any big choices." Less than an hour later, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was Lily. She texted, "Please talk to Ethan. Tell him he misunderstood. Tell him to come back." I stared at the screen for a long moment, then typed back, "Ethan didn't leave because of me. He left because of the way you live, how you treat people, how you assume a sweet apology can fix everything." She replied quickly, message after message. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I just wanted Mom and Dad to be proud of me. I promise I'll change." But I didn't write back. Not because I didn't care, but because I finally understood. Apologies often arrive when everything is already broken beyond repair. Not out of accountability, but out of fear. Not to make things right, but to stop the bleeding. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to let silence answer where words no longer matter. A month later, my parents showed up at my doorstep with a small suitcase in tow, their faces worn from the long journey. They looked older than I remembered, tired, perhaps from the road or from something heavier that neither of them would say aloud. I opened the door and let them in without a word. I didn't ask questions. I didn't demand an explanation. I simply made tea and placed 2 cups on the table, one in front of each of them. We sat in silence for a few moments, the air heavy with unspoken things. My father was the first to speak. His voice was lower than usual, slower, almost cautious. "I want to apologize," he said. "We've had time to think. Maybe things went too far." My mother nodded and added in a softer tone, "We shouldn't have said the things we did. It got out of hand." For a moment, I almost believed it. I wanted to. But then my father's tone shifted, slipping into something more familiar, more practiced. "We're family, Rose. Families are supposed to help each other. We raised you. We gave you everything. And now you have it all, don't you?" My mother leaned in, her voice sweet, casual, like she was discussing the weather. "If you could send $1,500 a month, just a little, it would help us so much." I looked at them, these people who had once pushed me out of the family gathering, who had called me an embarrassment. Now they sat in my living room, measuring their apology in dollars. I let out a quiet laugh, not bitter, not cruel. Just the kind of laugh one gives when hearing a story that's too far from reality to argue with. "How much will Lily be contributing each month?" I asked. The room shifted. A pause. The weight of the question settling in. My mother glanced at my father, then back at me. "Her job situation isn't stable," she said slowly. "She's still heartbroken from the breakup with Ethan." I nodded. Not surprised. Not moved. "I'll match whatever she's willing to give," I said plainly. "If she agrees to pay $1,500 a month, I'll do the same." Neither of them spoke. I leaned back in my chair. "Or," I continued, "if I'm expected to shoulder it alone, then I'll need a legal contract. Something that guarantees the house will be passed to me after you both are gone." My father's face flushed. He shot to his feet so quickly the teacup on the table rattled and spilled over. "You're putting conditions on your own parents?" He shouted. "We raised you for more than 20 years, and now you want to negotiate every dollar?" His voice echoed off the walls, sharp and unforgiving. I didn't flinch. I stood slowly, looked him in the eyes, and said quietly but firmly, "I think you should leave." He stared at me, chest heaving, but I didn't look away. My mother stood too, not saying a word. She reached for the suitcase. Together, they walked to the door. No more arguments. No more pleas. I followed them, opened the door, and waited. As they stepped out, my father didn't look back. My mother paused just slightly, then kept walking. The door clicked shut behind them. Soft. Final. That was the last time I saw them 3 years ago, right here in this house. No goodbye. No second visit. Just the sound of a suitcase rolling down the hallway and the quiet relief that followed once the door closed. There's a certain kind of silence that doesn't scream, it just lingers. Like mist in the early morning, it wraps around you, not cold or loud, but undeniable. That's what the past 3 years have felt like. No fights, no door slamming, no cruel words exchanged. Just the absence. The space where voices used to be. I still get up every morning, brew my tea, scan the weather, and drive to work like any other normal person. From the outside, everything looks fine. And truth be told, most days it is. My company's growing steadily. We just signed a contract with a hospital chain in Seattle. My team is brilliant, motivated, and sharp. There's no chaos in my world anymore. But sometimes, in the quiet moments, I wonder what it would have been like to have a family that didn't keep score. Because that's what it always was, wasn't it? A transaction. We raised you. We fed you. We paid your tuition for 1 semester, remember? I do remember. I also remember working 2 jobs while coding late into the night just to cover rent. I remember the passive-aggressive sighs when I said no to coming home for holidays, and the way Lily's sadness was always louder than my exhaustion. But nothing prepared me for the day they showed up on my porch. I hadn't told them where I lived, but somehow they found out, maybe through Lily, maybe through an old tax document. I'll never know. They stood there with their suitcase and weary eyes, not like family visiting, but like people arriving with expectations. I let them in. Of course I did. That part of me, the one that still wants to believe people can change, wasn't dead yet. I brewed tea. I listened. And for a brief moment, I believed their apology. But then came the condition. The suggestion. The unspoken bargain. If I could just give a little. If I could just contribute. Just $1,500 a month. It wasn't the money that stung. It was how casually they brought it up, as if help was owed, as if our past had been wiped clean the minute they decided they needed something from me. As if my worth was now measurable in monthly deposits. When I mentioned Lily, the conversation shifted. It always did. My sister had the ability to disappear from responsibility with the grace of a magician. One flick of the wrist, and she was the victim again, too sad, too fragile, too not quite ready. But I was done playing the role they wrote for me, the capable one, the one who always managed, the one who never needed help but was expected to give it. So I said no. Not with cruelty, and not with spite. I gave them a choice. A shared commitment with Lily. Or a legal arrangement if they wanted me to bear it alone. In that moment, I wasn't asking for love, I was asking for fairness. And fairness, apparently, was an insult. The sound of the teacup breaking still echoes in my mind sometimes. Not because it scared me, but because it was so familiar. That same eruption that used to end arguments when I was a kid. When my opinion became too sharp. When my independence was seen as defiance. After they left, I stood in the hallway for a long time, not crying, not angry, just numb. Kind of numb that feels like clarity. I had crossed a line I could never uncross. And maybe for the first time in my life, I chose myself fully. Since then, there have been no updates. No, how are yous? No, we're sorry. Not even a forwarded meme from Lily, who used to spam our family chat with dog videos. Birthdays came and went. So did Christmas, Easter, and the anniversary of the last real hug I ever gave them. Sometimes I wonder if they tell people about me. Do they say I moved away for work? Do they mention their ungrateful daughter who forgot where she came from? Or have they rewritten the story altogether, where they're the victims and I'm just another selfish millennial? It doesn't matter now. I live with my choices and I sleep soundly at night. I pay my bills, donate to causes I care about, and make space for friendships that nourish me. I even started therapy, not because I'm broken, but because I wanted to understand why I carried guilt for so long. Why it took me 28 years to realize love shouldn't feel like a loan. Till, on quiet nights, I ask myself questions I know don't have easy answers. Was I wrong? Am I ungrateful? Should I have given them the money, not because they deserved it, but because they were aging and I had it to spare? But then I remember, kindness that's coerced isn't kindness at all. And love that's only shown when there's something to gain isn't really love. I've spoken to friends who tell me they envy my courage. Some of them are still stuck in cycles of guilt and obligation, quietly bleeding from wounds that never healed. I tell them what I tell myself. It's not cold to choose peace. It's not cruel to protect yourself from those who hurt you repeatedly, even if they share your blood. I didn't stop being their daughter the day I said no. I just stopped being their safety net. They truly needed me, not as a provider, not as a solution, but as a daughter, I would have shown up. I know that about myself. But they came to me with conditions, not connection. And I don't build bridges on ultimatums. So here I am, living, working, breathing. A little stronger, a little lonelier maybe, but whole. And if you've made it this far, reading this, listening, I want to ask you something. Do you think I did the right thing? Would you have sent the money? Or would you have done what I did, closed the door quietly and let the silence begin? Let me know. I want to hear your story too. Through everything I've been through, there are a few lessons I want to share, lessons I wish someone had told me years ago. Lesson 1. Just because someone raised you doesn't mean they have the right to emotionally manipulate you. Love that comes with conditions is not love, it's control. My parents gave me life, yes, but that doesn't mean I owe them mine in return, especially when their version of love always came with a price tag. Lesson 2. Silence is not cruelty. Choosing not to respond, not to engage, is not the same as being heartless. Sometimes silence is how we protect our peace. I didn't slam doors, I simply stopped opening them to pain. Lesson 3. Being the strong one in the family doesn't mean being the sacrificial one. For years, I thought being strong meant carrying everyone else's burden. But strength, I've learned, also means drawing boundaries and refusing to be taken for granted, no matter who it is. Lesson 4. Real family is about respect, not duty. I used to think family ties were sacred. Now I know true family makes you feel safe, seen, and valued, not used. Blood means nothing if the bond is toxic. Lesson 5. You don't have to justify your healing. You don't need to explain to anyone why you chose distance, why you said no, or why you finally stopped giving. Healing is personal. And sometimes it looks like walking away from people who never thought you would. I know some of you may agree with me, and others may not. That's okay. My story isn't perfect, but it's honest. If any part of this resonated with you, if you've ever had to make the hard choice to put yourself first, then I hope you know you're not alone. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, like if you felt seen. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that speak the unspoken. Because sometimes healing begins with just one voice saying, I get it.